Hey everybody, this is Chris Addick with the Veterans Law Blog. Listen, I had a few minutes before I shut down the shop here and head out and get home to watch some election night coverage. I had a few minutes, thought I'd pop on here and talk to you a little bit and answer some questions you got. So I'm going to start this timer. I got 10 minutes before I got to head out of the office. And so I'm just going to talk until somebody pops up with a question, see if I can answer them. Listen, I want to talk to you guys about something that I've been reading a lot about lately, and that's knee and back ratings. Okay, and my law firm handles court appeals, BVA decisions, and we are seeing a lot of decisions coming out of the BVA, as you all pretty much know and are aware of already. I've got a little low power mode thing here. All right. Yeah, you got a close up of my hand there. Anyway, seeing these decisions come out, they're real low quality. And it's not for any other reason other than the board is cranking them out, and I think they're cranking them out at 8 times their usual pace. But the ones that we're seeing the most are these knee and back ratings, and they're really messed up, folks. So if you get a board decision with a knee or a back rating, make sure you get an attorney to take a look at it. Some of that stuff is really bad. And I want to talk to you about what you should be looking for when they're rating your knee or back. And this is not the only things that are considered, and I'm not going to tell you how it equates to percentages because that gets into really confusing stuff right there. But what I am going to tell you is that there are 3 things really that you want to focus on in making sure that you got a correct rating for your knee or your back. So we're talking about Lord. So that was a phone call right there. I have no idea how that's going to look on the video, but in any event, sorry about that. That's the babysitter calling. So, in any event, turning back to knees and backs, there's 3 things that you guys want to focus on looking at when we are talking about rating the knee or back joint. We're talking about claims that have already been service connected, and you're trying to get a higher rating or a rating in the first place. So the 3 things you want to look at are the range of motion in that particular joint, functional loss in that particular joint, and pain in that particular joint. Okay, so if you have the range of motion is the flexion and the extension that the joint moves. If you've got like the hip and you've got some other different directions that joint will go, but primarily when we're talking knee and back, we're talking about the flexing and the extending of the joint. And so what you're looking at when you're talking about range of motion is how far you can flex and how far you can extend, and those are measured by the doctor. It's not just supposed to be a single once and out measurement. They're supposed to measure it multiple times to simulate repetitive use in the normal course of daily life. So they're going to get that range of motion measurement. The second thing that they've got to consider is functional loss, all right, because you can get separate ratings for your knee or your back for functional loss, range of motion, and pain, and a couple other things I'm going to tell you about here in a minute. They're going to look second at that functional loss, and they're going to look at 5 things, and ESSCE is how I remember it. It's excursion, speed, strength, coordination, and endurance. They're going to look at how those things manifest in your particular injury. So they're going to look at how fast you can move with your knee, how your coordination or your balance, your endurance, all those different things. And they're going to try to translate those limitations into a range of motion estimation, all right? And then that range of motion estimation, you're going to get a separate rating for that functional loss. And then the third thing is pain. Pain is interesting because even if you don't have any impact on your range of motion due to a knee or back injury, if you have pain, you're still entitled to the minimum 10% rating. And a lot of times, I would say 50 to 60% of the time, the BVA misses that. I can't speak to all the regional offices because there's over 4 or 5 dozen of them, but I do know it's fairly frequent that they miss that. So if you have complete range of motion in your joint, but you've got pain anywhere within that range of motion, that is significant enough to get you a minimum 10% rating. Now, if you have pain and it impacts your range of motion, then what's supposed to happen again is that CMP examiner is supposed to estimate the impact of the pain on your range of motion. And again, we're not just doing a once and out measurement. We're supposed to be measuring it a couple, 2, 3 times to try to simulate that daily use or daily activity scenario. So they should measure it a couple of times and should be writing down where you tell them that pain starts and stops in the range of motion. And for the love of God, if it hurts, Don't do it anymore. All right, I see so many veterans that are doing these C&P exams, and they push through the pain, and they talk about, feeling the pain in their extension or flexion and pushing through it. Well, what you're doing right there is you're telling the doc and showing the doc that you can move it more than you actually can, and you're going to lower your rating because of it. So when you feel the pain and you can't move any further, why don't you stop? Just a thought. But in any event, so those three things are going to be added together. It's going to be functional loss, it's going to be your pain, and it's going to be your range of motion. And you're supposed to tell the doc, too, at the C&P exam that if you are experiencing flare-ups, tell them the frequency that you're experiencing them. Tell them how that flare-up presents. Tell them maybe it's a flare-up of pain. Maybe it's a flare-up of just a little hitch in your knee or something like that where you lose stability and fall down. Whatever type of flare-up you're seeing or experiencing, you should tell the doc the frequency of it, the endurance, and the nature of it. And the doctor at the C&P exam is supposed to be translating that into the range of motion so that you can get a more accurate rating for that particular joint. So that's it in a real nutshell. That is real super high level. The real thing I wanted to communicate to you is that you can get more than one rating for a knee or a back. If you have functional loss, pain, or range of motion limitations, you can get up to 3 different ratings for that, and it can combine. So the board misses that almost to the predictable amount. But if you get a board decision, again, get that thing to an attorney to take a look at those knee and back ratings, because I can almost guarantee there's something wrong with them right now. So I got a question here from Katie. It says, what is the percent of claims granted by the BVA in favor of veterans? I actually don't know the most recent statistic for that. I will tell you, though, that they are cranking them out. They are cranking out these decisions. And so I would suspect right now, from what we're seeing, that the scale's probably tilted in favor of veterans. You're probably seeing more grants. And the reason I think that might be happening, if it is happening, is that the VA desperately wants to move all of these old legacy claims into the modernized appeals claim process. And I don't know that that's smart in every single case. There's advantages, there's pros and cons. I can't talk to that right now. Frankly, nobody can talk to it right now because the new system is not even in place. The regs have not even been approved yet. Let's look to the next question here. Can my hips be secondary to your back? Absolutely. Anything can be secondary to anything, but you've got to have medical evidence of it. And that's what's really key in a secondary service connection scenario, is that by and large, almost all the time, the only person that can say that one medical condition causes or aggravates another medical condition is going to be a doctor. You're going to have to get a medical personnel, and I would recommend that it's not also your lawyer. If your doctor is your lawyer and your lawyer is your doctor, you might want to split that up a little bit. That's been causing some problems for a couple of folks. But if you have a wife that's a doctor, or if you're a medic of some sort, I would encourage you to get a professional opinion from somebody else to establish that secondary, whether it's aggravation or whether it's direct causation. So, yeah, sleep apnea that wasn't logged while in service. If you've got sleep apnea, the only way to diagnose it is in service. You have got to get a sleep study done to actually diagnose sleep apnea. So what do you do if you don't have a sleep study in service, or if they didn't do sleep studies when you were in service? And frankly, I mean, if you go back to Vietnam, they probably didn't know even the word sleep apnea back then. So what you've got to do, a couple of things, and I've written a whole book on this because it's really, really complicated, and I can't do it justice in the minute and 20 seconds that I have left here on this video. But what you've got to do is you've got to take a look at the symptoms you are experiencing in service, and you've got to tie them into the current symptoms that you have of your sleep apnea. And oftentimes that you can do that through some continuity of symptomatology and through some lay evidence. It's really good to have a medical doctor look at those symptoms and say, yeah, that if I was diagnosing that today, and if I had a sleep apnea sleep study, I would diagnose sleep apnea. That's one way to do it. The other thing, a lot of lay evidence. We talked about this the other day, and you want to pop onto YouTube and here on Facebook, frankly, and look at the video we talked about how a lot of vets hang their hat on snoring in service, and that ain't going to cut it, because snoring alone is not a symptom of sleep apnea. So, all right, let's see. We got another question here. Chiropractor, can they be? Yeah, I mean, it's a crapshoot, really. I mean, can you get a chiropractor to help with a nexus opinion in a VA claim? Absolutely. But you can almost be sure every single time that you bring in a physician's assistant, a registered nurse, a nurse practitioner, a chiro, or somebody that doesn't have MD or PhD after their name, the VA is going to say, oh, there's something inadequate about this opinion. And that doesn't cut the other way. You know, they can throw all these physician's assistants they want, you know, diagnosing coronary artery disease, and they're presumed competent. So it doesn't go each way. The thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your chiropractor looks at the C file and really gives an adequate explanation, reasoning why they reached the conclusion. So it's like math class back in grade school. You know, when Sister Mary Jane would come around and look at your math homework, you know, she'd slap you on the knuckles with the ruler if you didn't show your work, right? If you just said 3 + 4 = 7, you didn't explain it. Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot of explanation there. I'm just thinking off the cuff here. But if you've got a math problem, math formula, and you're working through it in math class, you're going to show your work, right? Same thing. No matter who the doctor, no matter who the medical professional is, you're going to want to have them show their work by reasoning through why they think something is service-connected, not just that it is. So, all right, folks, I am going to jump off. I really enjoyed this. I want to do a few more of these pop-ups here and there. I'll just do them at random times throughout the day and evening. Heck, one of these mornings on a run, I might stop and talk to y'all if I need a break. But in any event, it was good chatting with you. We'll see you soon on the Veterans Law blog. Hop over to veteranslawblog.org. We've got a couple new posts going up today and one going up tomorrow. We're going to talk about the Gray case for Agent Orange Brown Water Navy veterans. SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the U.S., just granted cert on that. So we've got another case going to the Supreme Court. It's really exciting. All right, take care, y'all. Bye.